Well, Happy New Year, wonderful people, and a very warm welcome to the Goldmine Show. Very glad to see you on this side of the year, and we thank God for bringing us this far. And it is January, and a lot of us are setting goals and what we call resolutions, but we want to just have a conversation about what it takes to have a successful 2022. Man, you've made goals. We want to make them different this year, and no better man to walk us through this goal-setting question than the guest that we have today. I'm extremely excited just to bring this man to you. He's a great man, six-star general, I must say, and he's also been very passionate on matters goals setting and how to achieve them, matters environmental and everything in between. Totally glad to bring our guest, man. And without any further ado, I want to reintroduce this man, a great man, and I know it's going to be of help to you, none other than my good friend, Dr. Edward Mungai. Well, let's take a listen to this one. And now we bring the man himself, Dr. Edward Mungai, a man passionate environment, a man passionate goals, a man passionate becoming everyone and everything you must become. And Dr. it's so good to have you on the show today, man.
Good to have you here, Dennis.
And Happy New Year. Karibu.
Asante sana.
So good to have you.
Well, let's see how this pans out.
Oh, it's going to be great.
Sure. Yeah. Let's see how we can impact people, because at the end of the day, you know, when you die, Dennis, the question will be, how many people did you touch?
Right.
I normally tell this analogy, you know, which is a common thing, that when all of us were born, one thing for sure happened. What was it? We cried.
Absolutely.
People around us rejoiced.
Right.
Now, when we die, what happens? Can it be the opposite?
Right.
Let people cry because of the difference that we have done or the difference that we have made in this world. But of course, to make that difference is not easy. You know, it takes courage, it takes discipline, it takes consistency.
Right.
You have to keep on pushing. And every day, it's an everyday effort.
Right.
That's what it is.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And it's interesting, you remind me of a book that says, who will cry when you die?
That's right. Is that by Robin Sharma?
It's Robin Sharma. Absolutely.
And it's a key question that, you know, many of us must be able to ask. I know we are talking in January. This is the period that we are all very busy making resolutions. By the way, don't make resolutions. Resolutions don't work.
Right.
What works is goals. And we'll get into that conversation.
And we need to know the difference
between resolutions and goals.
Right.
Now, if you are going to make this difference, you must start from somewhere. And that somewhere is to say, when I die, what will I have accomplished?
Right.
Unfortunately, many of us, you know, we get into this fallacy that you cannot see beyond 1 month, you cannot see beyond 2 months. But the truth of the matter is that, Dennis, what are your goals for the next 15 years?
Right.
It's crazy,
right?
But until you know the end, you cannot get there. Stephen Covey tells us that you must start with the end in the mind.
Correct.
Such a simple promise,
right? And
yet 95% of the people don't do it,
which is unfortunate. 95 is a very big statistic.
It is.
It means by far almost all of us miss it.
Precisely. And you know, I'm talking about this, you know, with a lot of humility, because this is a journey for me for 15 years.
Right.
I've been at it for 15 years.
Tell us more.
And now I'm trying to start seeing some results towards it.
Right.
I'm still work in progress, and that's where the humility comes in. The idea is, first of all, to define what is success to you.
Correct.
Now, when you ask what is success, many people will quickly say, and especially from where I come from, I mean, my name is shouting it all. Where I come from is about money.
What's in the account?
What's in the account?
Right.
Unfortunately, that's not what drives life. Money is good. I'm not saying money is not good.
Right.
It's just an enabler.
Right.
It's not the end. It's a means to the end.
It's not an end of itself.
Exactly. It's a means to the end.
So the question is, what is it enabling?
Now, we do have 9 things that I want to talk to you about.
Please.
This is what I call the 9 domain areas. And
Right.
this to me is what defines success. It could be different for you, but the most important thing and the process that we need to trust is you defining what matters in your life. And when you die,
Yep.
you know, you want to look back and say, how successful was I?
Right.
The definition of success is how well did I achieve my 7, my 8, my 3, my 9
Goals.
domain areas.
Right, right.
Now, for me, it
And
boils
by the way, Dr. That's important. We try to be successful sometimes even without defining what success is.
correct. And unfortunately, because you don't know the end, you will struggle.
Absolutely.
And you might not be able to end up there.
Right.
And when you get to your deathbed, then there will be so many regrets.
Right.
That I wish I did this, I wish I did. And the truth of the matter is that there was no clarity.
Right.
The whole essence of defining that success is about clarity.
Clarity.
Once we know what is it,
Wow.
then we can roll our sleeves
Fantastic.
and we can go for it.
I
And
like
in
it.
fact, is
Yep.
you know what I call the why.
Yep.
You know, there is also another book by Simon Sinek which says
Start with why.
Start with why.
Right, right. Fantastic book.
And you have to start with that why.
Right.
Now, my why is made up of 9 things.
Mm-hmm.
The first thing and the most important thing is my spirituality.
Right.
How am I connected with God? I'm a believer. And I know no matter what, heaven is where I'm going.
Right.
No matter what.
That decision is made.
That decision is, and that is what I call big, hairy, audacious goal. And I tell
Right.
you,
Yes.
it's big, hairy, audacious goal
Yep.
to go to heaven. Because
Right.
there's too many distractions.
Right.
But we are all sinners.
Right.
That is true.
Right.
But we have this opportunity to do it again, you know, to go back and run it again and, you know, become better.
Right.
And
Right.
that's the aspiration that every waking day, that is what it's all about.
Right.
Trying to figure out how can I be more connected with God.
Right.
And, you know, we are human beings.
Right. Right.
Unfortunately, we say, I want to go to heaven. But you don't put the mechanisms to take you to heaven.
Right.
And that is what makes the difference. You know, we have to sit down and say, okay, if I want to go to heaven, what are some of the things that I must be able to do today? I'm Catholic, for instance.
Right.
Within Catholic Church, we
Yep.
have traditions.
Right.
You know, like for instance, there are 16 things that I can do every day.
Right.
Maybe about reciting my rosary.
Right.
Do I go for Mass every day?
Right.
Irrespective.
Right.
You know, whether I'm in Brussels, whether I'm in Nairobi, do I make sure that I go for Mass every day?
Right.
And the moment those things are taken care of, the bigger goal, and they are taken care of on a daily basis, the bigger goal will be achieved.
Right.
Now, the second thing, and very important,
Before we go to the second one, I mean, I like the first one. Because you have determined heaven you must go, then every day you're conscious about how you live your life
correct.
and what journey you must have consciously.
And not only consciously,
Right.
you must be able to go down and say, these are the things that I will do.
Then you're working it backwards, and that determines your everyday and what you do, what you become, and all of that.
That's right. And you know, it's not just about being consistent. And the unfortunate thing is that we are still human.
Yep.
And human beings, my friend Dennis, we are lazy people. That's the bottom line.
General.
And what you need to do is you need to put, you know, a mechanism
Yep.
that will make sure that, you know, that you are getting over and above that laziness.
Right.
Now, what does this mean? It's about routines, my friend.
Right.
It's about knowing exactly what you'll do at your waking hour. For me, I call it holy hour.
Yep.
It's not only about going to heaven that I call it holy hour,
Yep.
but this is my me time. This is the time that, you know, I sit and reflect. For instance, I do my spiritual reading, I do my gospel reading every morning on that first 20 minutes.
Right.
You know, 3 to 3:20, 3:20 to 4, or rather to 3:40, I do journaling. And we'll talk about the routines. I think we'll have an opportunity.
Daktari,
Because
you wake up at 3.
3 is my waking up time. My sleeping time is 8:30. I have 15 years. I told you I've been struggling for 15 years. 15 years I haven't watched 9 o'clock news.
For the last 15 years.
It's waste of time.
Oh, you will
It's
tell
negative
me.
news.
Right.
And we'll go to goal number 3.
Absolutely.
Because that's what it's about.
Right.
But the point that I'm trying to raise here is that you must live a life of being deliberate.
Right.
That's what it is all about.
Right.
Now let's go to number 2.
Right.
Number 2 is about my physical health.
Right.
You know, health is that crown that only the sick people see on the healthy people. And we take it for granted, my brother.
Right.
We all work in institutions, we have insurance, but we never go for medical tests.
Right.
And it's already paid.
Right.
And every year you need to go for medical, but
We don't.
we don't go for
We
it.
take it for granted.
And it's a baseline
Right.
that we should know to be able to know how we are going to live for the next year.
Correct.
So if you are going to make your goals, the first goal truly that you should make is to go for a medical test, my brother or my sister.
Yep.
Because that gives you the baseline.
Right.
And when you don't have your health, you have nothing.
Absolutely.
You know, I have this old man, you know, he was 80, he was a relative.
Right.
And one time we picked a conversation and I was asking him, you know, what are the things that matters in this world? What are your domain areas? I have 9. He told me I have 3.
Yep.
He said number 1 is money, you know, where I'm coming from, you know,
In
of
that
course.
order, number 1.
Number 1 is money.
Yes. And maybe he's not alone.
Number 1 is money.
Right.
Then he said number 2 is relationship. And number 3, he said, is health. And I was shocked, you know, that this old man is talking about health.
Yep.
And he's 80 years of age.
Right. He's conscious about
He's
it.
conscious about
Correct.
it. Now, and therefore, physical health become, you know, my number 2 principle.
Then
For
you-
this guy, he was telling me it will eat his money. It will eat his relationship because he will trouble people.
Right.
You know?
Right.
So therefore, health is a very critical element and we have to figure out. And really, it's not just about, you know, paying for gym membership. It's you figuring out what is the best way I can become healthy. It's about your physical health. You know, is what you eat. Is your exercise regime. You know, is also about your outlook. How do you look like,
Right.
you know?
Right.
All this becomes, you know, your health. And again, you have to set goals as far as that is concerned. Just to give you an example for 2022, what is my goal for physical health? And we can go into the book and check.
Yep.
You know, it's very simple. I want to run 2,000 kilometers in 2022.
2,000 kilometers.
2,000 kilometers. Don't be shocked. You know, there's one key element to practical part of it. And that is about your days becomes your weeks. Dennis, your weeks becomes your months.
Right.
Your months becomes your years.
Correct.
Your years becomes what I call your life.
Right.
Let's go back to my 2,000 kilometers. Divide 2,000, or even for illustration purposes, let's say it's 2,400. Mine is 2,000, but let's say for illustration purposes it's 2,400.
Over
Now,
12 months.
Over 12 months.
Right.
What does that mean?
20 per pound.
It's 200.
200, I mean 200
Per month.
Per month, yes.
200 per month.
Yes.
Now divide by 4 weeks. Because a month have got,
50.
now, a week have how many days, Dennis?
7 days.
Now, divide 50 by 7.
Approximately 7.
It's about 7.
7.
Right?
Yeah.
So you just need to run 7 kilometers. Today, I run 7 kilometers every day for 6 days in a week. I just need to make sure that today, between 5:30 and 6 a.m., I went out and I did my 7 kilometers.
You have
The
even allocated
2,000
the time for it. It's
Precise-
between 5:30.
And that's the discipline it requires. Otherwise, it will not be done. And this is the problem. We make resolution and we say, I want to be healthy in 2022.
A general statement.
General statement.
Not
That's the
actionable
difference.
at all.
Not actionable. And that's why
Absolutely.
the goals becomes. And it must be smart.
Absolutely.
You know, we talk about smart,
Right.
specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and
and-
timely.
absolutely.
It's very critical. 2,000, by the time I get to 31st December, you know, I'll be saying I did my 2,400 kilometers.
Done and done.
Done and dusted.
Goal achieved.
What I only needed to care about is that one day, 24 hours, period.
Just define that for every 24 hours.
24 hours,
At this time,
and this time,
I'll do this number of kilometers.
and you are done.
That's all.
That's about number
So you
3.
only worry for the day called today.
24 hours.
Fix today.
Fix today,
Just
the
fix
year,
24 hours.
your life will be fixed.
The 24 hours principle. Fix that one.
Fix that one, your life will be fixed.
You're good to go.
Of course, the key point is that you must have an objective. You must have the goal. And that's why I said, if you remember very well, 15 years is very important. Your 1 year is very important. Your 5 year, what I call me limited, your strategy for the next 5 years as Dennis
Yes.
is very critical. Because that's what you chase.
Right.
But that is again defined by what? By the 9 domain areas. Let's go to number 3.
Oh, I'm loving this conversation, Tektari.
Interesting.
I'm loving
And I
this
tell you, it's
conversation.
something that I built in 15 years.
And you know, even on the physical one, even as you go to the third one, the physical one, January, everyone signs up for the gym.
They are making
They
a boom
make
now.
real-
Everybody is making money who wants a
Absolutely.
gym.
Yeah.
But believe me, 20th of January, they will be empty. You know why? Because they are resolutions.
Yep.
People didn't put...
It wasn't a goal.
It wasn't a goal. And it didn't have a target to
Right.
say, I want X. I want to go to gym in January for 20 days.
Right.
Then go down and specify what
Which
time
day?
it is.
Right.
People will say, then you live a very boring life. Yes. Success calls for boring life. That is the only reason East African breweries have systems and procedures, what I call standard operating procedures
Right.
for efficiency.
Right.
Now, as a person, can you have that? Of course, but the whole community, the whole world will tag you as boring.
So I must run this enterprise called Dennis Njao like it was an enterprise.
Precisely. With standard operation procedures,
standard
with
operating
a 5-year strategy,
with a strategic plan and goals
and a
we
way
evaluate.
of, and a monitoring and evaluation and what I call accountability and running system.
I've got to put those matrices.
They need to be there. They need to be there. Otherwise it will not work.
And it's interesting, Daktari, because we seem to do that very well for the organizations we work for. And we forget that we also work for ourselves.
Precisely.
As enterprises.
Precisely. And the problem is that goal number 6, or rather the domain area number 6 that I'll be talking to you about, is where we have focused more. When I'm working for KCIC, when I'm working for Safaricom, when I'm working for Equity, when I'm working for East African breweries.
You're very disciplined.
No, the idea that is to make money.
Right.
And money, I told you, is what? It's just an enabler.
An enabler.
Is an enabler.
Right.
But if you put that life of what you call life of balance,
right,
is when you look at it in a holistic way. Now, talking about number 3.
Yes.
What is it about? Is my inner health. Please note, things like money haven't even featured. And we will go a long way before we get to that. It's about spirituality. We talked about physical health. Now I'm talking about number 3, which is your inner health.
Tell us about it.
It's this thing about being gloomy all the time, man. Not being positive at all, not seeing any good in people or in things.
Right.
We must transcend from the point of seeing things, the way they are normally. And that's the inner health. That inner health, what brings it about? Is the reflection, is the journaling that you do. What are my worries today? My first 20 minutes of a day, is spirituality. It's about the gospel, it's about the spiritual reading. But the next 20 minutes is about what? It's about the thoughts, the worries, the opportunities that I see during that day. And what does it do? It gives me, and also gratitude, the things that I'm thankful about. At the end of the day, what that gives me is that positivity that we need in this life.
Right.
And just change it for a day.
Yep.
And you see the difference that it will make. So it's upon me, to measure my success, on how positive was I.
And therefore, your positivity is actually something you consciously cultivate.
It is.
In fact, your practices lead up to it.
Precise, and it's a fight. It's a fight. I'll show up and you'll come and I won't, I don't feel like talking to you. But I have to push myself. It's called motivation. I have to smile even if I don't want to smile, I push myself to make it happen. And the moment that happens, in my inner self become elevated. My productivity becomes better.
But the goal, the end had already been predetermined. I want to live a positive life.
I want to be, in fact, is to be an exceptional person. That person who you can say is an exceptional person. I take you to the Bible. I think it's Mark chapter 7 verses 37, which says he did all things well. Who is that? It's Jesus Christ. And what about if we put it in ourselves and we say, when people look back, they say,
he did everything well.
He did everything well.
Right.
It requires that positive mind.
Absolutely.
Moving to number 4 is about our families. And we take it for granted. When everything is gone, Dennis, you have one place that you'll go to. That's in the family. Unfortunately, money, and especially again, where I come from, money, deals.
Yep.
I'm making deals, so I go home at 9 o'clock.
Yep.
I'm making deals, so, 3 a.m.
We extend all these hours.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Yep.
And we neglect that piece called the family. Unfortunately, for instance, the kids, just to take an example of the kids, do you have a strategy for your kids? Do you know exactly what you'd like for each one of them? And it's a deliberate effort. Individually. One of the biggest fallacies that I've seen of recent, for the middle class of Kenya, and I'm sorry to say this, is many of them are taking their kids to international schools. But you know what? It's for prestige. Is to be seen. They haven't thought, what is it that I want for this kid? I mean, you take your kids to an international school, you pay 300, 400,000, but eventually where do you take them back? USIU. Not that USIU is a bad school, no, but truly you would have taken them to Kianda school or another place where you would pay, 10% of that fees, and they would still end up in
same university.
Same university.
Yep.
So it's also about value for money. And the truth of the matter is that, can I be the best dad in the world?
But Dr. there's something there you said that I wouldn't want to miss. We do these things for the prestige, for the image we want to cast in society, and for how we want to look like. Not even about the child. It's about sometimes it's about our own image.
When you're having dinner and you are sharing stories, you say, my kids are in, X school.
you bring back the concept of starting with why. We don't start from the schools. We start with why.
It's
Why am I even
end.
taking them there?
It's the end.
To become what and what do I want to see of them?
Correct.
It is an end, not...
True, it's that end, and based on the end
Yep.
is where then you craft the strategy.
Correct.
That's what we do in our organization.
Right.
At the end of the day, one thing is the one that will determine who was successful and who was not successful. Is about what happens to our children. You know, that's what will define. Because if it is money, we will have a little bit cash.
Correct.
Hopefully.
Right.
If it's about, you know, playing golf, you know, enjoying ourselves, we will do that in groups.
Right.
But the question will be, where are your kids and how are they doing? So that's why it is very important, you know, to be that best dad in the world. It's exactly the same being the best hubby in the world. You know, it's about what is it and being deliberate. What is it that you do for your wife?
Right.
You know, unfortunately, again, you know, we live a life which is not for being deliberate. We do things by chance. You know, you wake up, you say, let's go for breakfast. You know, of course, people say we like that life of not being planned and not having structure. Spontaneous.
Right.
But I tell you, it will not take you anywhere, Dennis. It's the practical side of it.
Yep.
What it requires a standard operating procedure.
Maybe it's that spontaneity is part of the problem.
Precisely, because then
Because it's an absence of planning as well, by
exactly,
itself.
and you will find people calling you,
Right.
and you fitting into their plans,
Right.
as opposed to you fitting in your plans.
But you didn't have a plan in the first place.
Exactly.
So then you're too fluid.
Exactly.
You're too
I mean, I
fluid.
give you an example
Right.
that I fight at home
Right.
all the time.
Yeah.
You know, I have this book.
Right.
Where I say the things that I'll do for the year,
Yep.
the things that I'll do for a month, the
Right.
things that I'll do for a week, the
Right.
things that I'll do for a day.
And you know, we'll
Now,
get into this book.
now, the thing is,
Right.
the thing is that on an random Saturday afternoon, my 17-year-old daughter says something like, "Dad, can we have pizza today?" Well, you can. But then she says, "But Dad, can we, instead of dining a pizza, can we go and pick it?" You know, the answer is, we can't do that because it's not in the book. For that day, I didn't plan that 4 to 5, I'll go to pick a pizza. And they have to live with that. But there will be days that on Sunday or on Saturday, 4 to 5, I'll say, going for swimming or something like that, or going for pizza. And we will go for it. And you see, now my daughter wanted me to fit into her program. And I do have my plan. So again, it's also that thing of, you know, them even understanding what are the goals that we are going to achieve this year, Dad is going to achieve this year, and them, you know, understanding it and respecting that. It's part of the support mechanism, and hopefully we can also talk about support mechanism.
I'm just curious, for your goals, for example, Dr. Are those items that you guys discuss as a family, are they just known to you, or how do you go about this?
Now, this is a family affair. They are Edward Mungai's goal, their dad's goal,
Yes.
but everybody in the family knows what it is, and
Yes.
for 2 reasons.
Yep.
Number 1 is for the support mechanism. Number 2, they all know if Dad becomes exceptional in an year, meaning scoring 80% of the goals have been achieved, that calls for a December holiday.
They know we have a holiday.
They know we have a holiday.
Yeah.
So everybody will push that system
Yep.
to make sure that we get our 80%.
Right.
And therefore we have an A, and we are exceptional, and we'll be able to go on holiday.
We'll enjoy a holiday.
Exactly.
Right.
Not to enjoy, we will go for it.
Right.
Because if it is 75, there is no holiday, man. What are we celebrating?
So we've even defined the threshold around which
Precisely.
we celebrate.
We celebrate.
And that
that's,
goal is clear to everybody.
that's why that smartness of those goals, those things, specific, all that measurable, realistic, and timely, is very key.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the month, at the end of the year, I'll sit down and I say, let's look at my watch. Does it say I did my 2,400 kilometers? Musema kweli. That's it. And the goal is fixed, is 100%. Accumulate all of them. That's why you need a monitoring and evaluation system. It's not only for NGOs,
Right.
but it's also for us to have a monitoring and
Because
evaluation.
I'm running like a corporate organization by
Precisely,
myself as well.
precisely. And my take is that, you know, it can be done, you know, by being spontaneous, but chances of failing
Are
are
higher.
higher. It's
When
exactly
it is planned, the
planned
chances of success are higher.
are higher. You know, put time to plan for it, and life will be good.
And now that we're on the family area of domain, so Dad has his goals. Do the rest of your family, do you guide them then also in having their
Now,
own?
it's very interesting.
Yep.
It's very interesting.
Right.
Because the other day I was having a chat with my daughter, 17-year-old.
Right.
And, people in school, she came something like, people in school are telling me that, Stacy, you have figured out your life. You know exactly what you want in life.
Yep.
And I was smiling and I was saying, they are copying.
Right.
They are seeing what is happening.
Right.
And I tell you, 2, 3, 4 days ago, I was speaking to again my 11-year-old
Right.
in grade 8, and she's saying, Dad, I was planning my 2022. Dennis, it have to be like that. And remember, these people, we do what we see. So, and what we teach and what we tell our kids is exactly what they will do. So it's very important that it becomes, ingrained, not only for my kids, but also where I work. Many people wake up at 3 a.m.
Right.
to figure out this thing. Many people are having books. They're having books, and one condition I tell them, don't buy a Kasuku. Well, Kasuku is a good brand.
Yeah.
But it's a matter of you need something which will put an inspiration in you.
Right.
Something which will give you that positive energy.
Right.
And that's the notebook that you use,
Right.
to write your goals,
Correct.
to journal,
Correct.
and it gives you energy.
Correct. And therefore, it sounds like you'd actually encourage the beginning of the year family sit together. Let every member of the family be clear on their goals for the year.
Before and actually it's not the beginning of the year,
Yes.
Dennis. This happens between 20th of December and New Year. First and foremost, the first and the biggest exercise, which happens beginning of January, beginning of December, is to figure out how did we do.
Reviewing the year that
Reviewing the year that was.
Right.
We know we have some 20 days, but it's about reviewing how was the year was.
Right.
Based on that, then we'll be able to say, okay, what are the things that we can do better next year?
Right.
And what is it that we want to achieve? And by the time that the first is coming, all goals for 2022 for each one of us is well set.
It's clear.
It's clear.
So your whole family
It's clear.
knows this is what our 2022
They know this is
like.
what we are going for. And
you discuss
specifically,
it as a family.
Precisely. And you have a support mechanism to help you. I am an executive coach. I'll help them to coach them. I do have a coach. I have a mentor. I have a support group, what I call a mastermind group. All these are support mechanisms that will help you to achieve those goals. Unfortunately, we are not investing time. Anyway, where were we? We are talking about family, number four.
Number 4. But I absolutely like that, because when you even say you do them before 1st of January,
Correct.
it means that then we are planning including for fast itself.
Exactly.
Fast is part of the
Exactly.
year. So that's all the time to set the goal.
Precisely. And
should have been
fast,
said before
and
then.
fast you still wake up at that 3 a.m., if that is the thing.
Because the year kicks off then.
And you can't lose a day. Remember what I told you. It's 24 hours bubbles. If you miss 124 hours, then you'll never get it.
You don't recover.
It's gone. It's gone. Now you have 363 days, not 364.
With a load of 365 still.
Precisely. And you take the care of 24 hours. Actually, you don't need to take care of anything else.
Just sort out 24
Just sort out
hours.
that and that's done.
I called it the 24 hours principle.
Precisely. Yeah.
I will call that the 24 hours principle. If you sort out your 24 hours, sounds like you're good to go.
That's it. It's the same that we say, if you take care of the shillings, thousands will come.
And take care of the cents, the shillings will be taken care of.
Precisely. Precisely.
Fantastic.
And it's a very practical principle. Of course, it requires, some very specific work ethic.
Right.
It requires, some very specific routines.
Right.
It requires, follow-up.
Right.
It requires reflection. And that sometimes it also calls for visualization. Dennis, you don't know how many times, I wake up and I try to see how does 2022 look for me. How beautiful is it, What is it? These goals that I want, can I put them in a picture?
Right.
And that picture, I hang it somewhere that every morning I'm looking at the beauty of 2022.
Right.
Like it have happened.
Right.
So, and that's the why. Remember, the motivation is the most important thing that will drive us. If you don't have enough why you are doing X, you will not do it.
Right.
You will not do it.
Right.
Yeah.
Because you'll just end up ticking boxes.
Precisely.
Right.
Precisely.
Right.
Now, talking about number 5.
Right.
Number 5 is about career.
And we are still not at money yet.
Not yet. Bado.
Hatujafika huko.
Bado. So we talk about career.
Right.
And career, is about the job that you're doing.
Right.
It's about like this thing that you're doing,
Right.
and that which you want, to succeed in. About our jobs, that job, that you have in KCIC, that job you have in Safaricom,
Right.
that job you have, in Isuzu,
Yep.
is that the idea of trying to see how can I be best at what I do.
Right.
And the question is, do you even have a goal where you want to be this end of the year. Not the target that have been set by your organization.
Your personal
Your
goals.
personal goal, where you would want to take your career. Do you know in 5 years, in 10 years, what you'd want to be doing? And unfortunately, we do not invest. And that's why you invest in personal development. You know, I tell people, we'll talk about number 6, but I tell people that your money, whatever money you make, 10% of it should go for your personal development. Is the courses, is the coaching, is the mentoring, is all those nice things that you're getting, you know, to help you become a better person as far as your career is concerned. So it's very critical that, you know, every waking day, there will be many goals. Let me promise you, there will be many goals that you'll have to put under your career. Because it's about your daily job, that's where you spend your 8 hours. But it's also looking beyond those 8 hours and thinking about, you know, looking beyond that job that you have today and prepping, you know, for that which you want in 5 years. Let me give you an example. You know, I work in this, you know, windows of 5 years. In 2017, I decided that I wanted, you know, to become a global expert on sustainability matters.
Right.
Now, and the question I will ask myself, what does what calls for a global and global meaning, you know, in different continents. What calls for that? Then you have to do a lot of soul searching and saying, well, number one is credibility. You do require credibility.
Right.
So how do you get credibility? And of course, you also need knowledge. So what does it require? It requires you to have a PhD. You see, you cannot wake up one day and say, I want to be a global sustainability expert in 2 years. Because by definition, you must have the highest level of academic qualification in that area.
Right.
PhD takes you 3, 4, 5 years. So you must start looking at it 4 years before to try and build that.
Right.
And you have to invest time and money to get that PhD. And eventually, once you get it, then it will enable you to get to that global sustainability expert. Now, the truth of the matter is that many people will think, you know, he's a global, he just became. Yet there's so much effort, there's so much planning, there's so much investment that you have to put as far as that career. This is not to do anything with my full-time job. It's an extra thing that I'm looking 5 years from today, where will I want to be? We don't define that. As I said, it requires a lot of effort. You know, I tell people when they go into you see a duck, you know, floating on water. You think it's peaceful, it's very quiet, it's very calm, nice. But below that water, man, this thing is punching like hell. And that is what you need to define for that, you know, smoothness. What is it that you need to punch so that it can be able to get through? That's about your career. And it must be futuristic. And I tell you, you'll have many goals there because your targets, KPIs from work, will also falls into that. But beyond that, you also must think about beyond my job. That job probably will have it for another 5 years, 10 years. But when you're 55, you need to think, do I want to sit in boards? As an example. So now if I want to sit in boards when I'm 55 and I have 10 years to go, what are the things that I can do today, these 24 hours, which will make me, you know, achieve that objective?
You know, like the example you've just given right there, when you said you want to be a global expert,
Correct.
you defined that goal. Then you begin to ask, so what does it take? And you begin to
Correct.
unpack it to components
Correct.
like credibility.
Correct.
Then we begin to ask, so what
build
does
credibility mean? PhD?
And what does it take to build that credibility?
Exactly.
Now you realize we begin to ask them very important questions. And we begin to direct actions in a
very specific,
defined,
deliberate way.
Absolutely.
And eventually you'll get there and people will say, oh, how did he? But they don't know the punching, I'm telling you, that you have done over the years.
So another guy will just see Dr. Mungai and congratulations on your graduation. Graduating and coming in here. And they want to become a graduate, not understanding what was the why that led.
Why and the effort.
And what was it was a means to a certain direction.
Precisely. And back to your question, you know, back to your conversation about how does the family, you know, does the family need to be part of this?
Right.
I mean, I give you a joke. I mean, one time my wife was telling me, you know, sometimes I look forward. One day when you will tell me in the morning, good morning, you know, she kind of wakes up in bed and she tells me, because I'm there, good morning. Because as you can imagine, at 3 a.m. there's nobody. You're up already. But you see, because of the fact that, you know, this goal have been sold to them, they know exactly what it is.
Yes.
They know that day in, out, 5:30, irrespective, Dennis, I will be at home. They know that 7:30, we will be saying the rosary. They know that I will spend 1 hour with them.
Given.
That's what life is about. And they will be able to allow you to get your goals. But now imagine you come home at 3 a.m. What's going to happen? Even that relationship might not survive.
It may not.
So again, this is why life of being deliberate, but that being deliberate is knowing I'm going to press X.
Clarity.
Clarity. Defining that why.
Clarity, deliberate.
Yes, and this is what I call big, hairy, audacious goal. Don't make it, that clarity where you want to go, make it as big as you can. You know, and the qualification of it becoming big, hairy, audacious goal is that it scares you, that you wake up sometimes at 2 a.m. and you are sweating, thinking about that goal. Otherwise, if it doesn't do that, man, it's not a goal. And a goal without action is an illusion. And this is the problem. We have so many resolutions which end up becoming illusions.
So
that's the truth.
We're just running with illusions.
Exactly.
Maybe, Dr. at this point, please define for us, give us the difference between resolutions and goals.